play, and we will begin things in our semifinals here from Oakland. Right now, it's a forest and a passing of the turn. Jen will draw a card. He's got a Temple of Enlightenment. It's time to scry. Take a little look. Very quickly to the bottom. Back to Freeman we go. Freeman will draw. This is a forest, and that is a copy of Sylvan Caryatid, so a little bit of ramping action here. Jen will draw.
This is another matchup that Ivan's playing where the opponent cannot get Ascendancy off the table. If it's in, it's in.
Favorite Hoplite. A Crone Crusader. Those are some of the base. To get the party started, Freeman will draw a card.
And a Crone Crusader, the superstar of this deck alongside Jeskai Ascendancy.
It's a copy of Nykthos. 4 mana here. Eidolon of Blossoms there. And a card added to the grip for Freeman. Back to Jen we go. Jen will draw a card. It's a copy of Jeskai Ascendancy, though I don't think he has a third land.
Yeah, he has at least 1 or 2 cantrips in hand, so he has some looks at it, but does not have the third land ready to go right now.
Dragon Mantle going to come in. And that, of course, will trigger Heroic and a drawing of a card. One thing I always find interesting about watching Ivan play this deck is, he knows what he wants to do as far as targeting Heroic Creature. He could target Favorite Hoplite and make it bigger.
That's not what this is about. He wants to build up a board so the Ascendancy is likely to be lethal the turn he casts it.
Everybody coming into the red zone. I wouldn't feel good about this if I was Brendon. Yeah, what on earth
Brendon?
is this attack?
Brendon giving him the what the hell look right now.
I imagine this is what's happened a lot where the opponent goes, I don't know what this is. I guess I'll just take it. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be. All right, we're going to be on Trailblazer. Pass the turn back.
When is the last time in Standard that you've seen a 3-color 18-land deck?
I don't know, Affinity?
Yeah, that's you have to go back that far,
Yeah.
right? And it's disingenuous to really call that a 3-color deck because it has like a Shrapnel Blast and an Auriok Rigger and a Thoughtseize or whatever. This is a 3-color deck on 18 lands.
That is a Doomweight Giant that's going to draw Brendon a card. Very timely.
This is the draw that Brendon can get here.
Yep.
Eidolon into Doomweight Giant.
Pass the turn back. Jen lost some of his stuff. We'll draw a card. Another copy of Jeskai Ascendancy. Does not have the third land yet. That's the big problem right now. He's just going to pass the turn back. Over to Freeman, who will draw. Can he start playing a bunch of enchantments is the question. Clear everything off this table. There's a Commune. That's a good start. Take a look at the top 5. 1 is a Satyr Wayfinder, a Hornet Queen, a Commune, and a Windswept Heath. The Busy Bees to the grip, the rest to the graveyard, along with the Commune.
Though keep in mind, Hornet Queen not the best stabilizing force against Ivan's deck because he's playing 4 copies of God's Willing. So he can punch through a sea of monocolor blockers pretty easily.
It's an attack for at least 4. Yep. Just a little Doomwake. See if Jen maybe has any interest in blocking here. Certainly giving it a thought.
Well, he could block with the Hoplite, target it with a spell, maybe a Retraction Helix, and bounce the Eidolon. Could set Brendon back pretty far.
I've seen worse turns. There is a block. Looks like he's going to take 1. Play a Defiant Strike here. And what that'll do, of course, is prevent all the damage that we dealt to it. So, and also cantrip, if this does resolve. Can't forget about the Heroic counter as well, so throw that thing up to a 2-3. A little bit of mana here. Satyr Wayfinder there. Take a look at the top couple of cards.
And it appears as though Ivan drew a Battlefield Forge, which means he can cast the Ascendancy next turn.
Wayfinder is a miss. 2 Murderous Cuts go to the graveyard. Pretty important. There's a forest. That is another copy of Satyr Wayfinder. So we'll take a look at the top 4 cards here. Whip of Erebos, a Temple of Malady, Pharika, God of Affliction, and a Sylvan Caryatid. Temple added to the hand. Freeman's already played his land, So that'll be his turn. That is a Battlefield Forge. This is a copy of Jeskai Ascendancy. This game's a little bit different now.
Here we go.
Just got to go down to 15 to cast it, but his namesake card is in play. Freeman's got to get a move on.
And this is another scenario. Does Brendon really know the full scope of the trouble he's in? We know that Bradley knew because he played it against him in the Swiss rounds, but playing against this deck for the first time, you may not know the full extent of the trouble.
Doomweight Giant to the red zone. No other good attackers, so. In comes that big guy. Gen down to 11. His mana base is a little bit painful with these Battlefield Forges, and he's a very color-sensitive deck.
It just is what it is. He can't really get away from it. Surprising that there's not 4 copies of Mana Confluence in the list.
Maybe a change to be made moving forward.
Well, there's 4 Battlefield Forges, so it's base red-white, and he just wants a little bit of blue.
Nykthos activation here for a lot of green mana. It's a Hornet Queen. And he's got to get moving now. 4 additional 1/1 flyers we put into play with that. Temple of Malady will allow Brendon to scry. Leave that card on top, pass the turn back. We've seen Ivan Gen win from some pretty crazy spots this weekend. See if he can do it again.
It's a good look.
Draw a card. I think that wasn't a Chrome Crusader. I think he already had one in his hand too. All right.
Yep.
Is there Attraction Helix too? The best part is I don't even know what's going to happen.
Well, I think Ivan wants to. The plan here is how do I look at as many cards as possible that allows me the opportunity to find Springleaf Drung and cast Retraction Helix, because the game's very easy at that point. But mana is a bottleneck. I don't believe he has Springleaf Drum right now. He probably has to commit at least one of his mana to cast in a Chrome Crusader, so that's one less spell he gets to cast, most likely.
He's doing a lot of counting right now to figure out, okay, how much damage will I take if everything attacks? If I lose my board, is it a lethal attack? All that good stuff. He's got a lot to think about, and we haven't even thought about the fact that Brendon Freeman kept his top card on top with that scry very quickly.
Yeah.
Retraction Helix, yes. Trigger. I used the singular trigger. Triggers.
Trigger.
Yeah. Draw discard. Laguna Bond Trailblazer. That can go. Helix resolves. There's another Attraction Helix in hand, also a God's Willing.
I believe both of his creatures should be pumped right now.
I believe that's the case, though. We will take a look at Jeskai Ascendancy very quickly.
So I thought the untap your creatures and +1/+1 was rolled into the same trigger. So I guess he could elect to miss that in its entirety.
Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end turn, untap those creatures. So they are bigger. It is a trigger that you can miss.
Yep.
And he didn't untap his creatures, so. So this is actually, of all the matches we've watched him play, that's the first trigger he's missed so far. He could come back to hurt him.
Well, I don't know if that matters too much this turn, because this feels like one of those spots where he's either going infinite or he's not killing him.
Yeah, it's maybe a setup turn.
Yeah.
Bounce the Hornet Queen.
Ooh.
Well, he must be up to something. So he can block Doomwake Giant and do some other things, so. Looks like we got ourselves a commune. Take a look at the top. Eidolon of Blossoms ×2, Elvish Mystic, a Forest, and a Temple of Malady. Those cards will go to the graveyard. Eidolon's going to go to the grip. That's an enchantment there for the Doomwake Giant.
The Doomwake pretty far away from triggering for a relevant amount this turn.
Yeah. Gonna add a bunch of green mana. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for Nykthos. Make it 2 floating. A couple triggers here. I would have a blast playing this deck. See so many cards, do so many sweet things. Doomwake Giant trigger, of course, giving everything -1/-1. Now here's another Nykthos. More green mana. Hornet Queen. More bees.
Though this doesn't really change the clock in any appreciable way.
Not a ton.
Ivan's dead next turn, one way or the other.
There's Elvish Mystic with the leftover mana, so he's having a ball. And we even have more bees. Boy, look at this board. This would be a nightmare for a deck like Abzan.
Yeah. You can see why this deck is so good against Abzan midrange too. All the cards that Brendon's casting here are excellent in a 4-mana creature and removal spell kind of slogfest.
Here's some attackers. But more importantly here for Ivan, it's not a lethal attack.
He still needs to leave himself at a high enough life total where he's able to use his pain lands next turn. So he does want to do some blocking.
Copy of God's Willing. It's going to trigger Heroic. It's also going to trigger Jeskai Ascendancy. Draw discard. Scry action here too, all that stuff. Gets to untap. Also gets to scry. And of course, some of these creatures are going to get +1/+1. So you see Brendon's moving around his entire army to fit it onto the playmat. So there's still some blocking to be done.
Keep in mind all these creatures are also -1/-1.
Yeah, I think that's why he took the dice off.
Yeah.
Top card goes to the bottom real fast. Looks like that's going to block there. That'll block there. Of course, God's Willing naming black, of course, to save the favorite hoplite.
Well, it's all the same as far as that goes because of the heroic trigger. But I believe when it's all said and done, this will wash out with Ivan at 5 life, which means he'll be able to tap both of his battlefield forces for red or white mana next turn.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, just leaving himself above 2.
All right. He's made it.
And now can he find the drum? Because he has the Helix, he has the Crusader.
Time to draw a card.
Oh! Someone's on a heater.
When it's your tournament, it's your tournament, man. Here's a Springleaf Drum. And he doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself, of course.
Yeah, take your time. Because he gets to make a mana for free here, basically, because he can use the drum and one of his creatures that's going to untap anyway.
Yep. Creature's going to get a little bit bigger. There's Retraction Helix. And that'll trigger the Ascendancy. Heroic trigger here. Draw discard. There goes a Chrono Crusader. Guess he doesn't need that anymore. So now, bounce this. Replay it with the mana floating. Going to demonstrate the loop that I'm going to do this many times.
So he doesn't even need the Crusader here because he can keep doing this iteration until he finds God's Willing. I suppose there's the possibility that Brendon has a Murderous Cut available.
Well, if he had it, I think he would have cast it.
Probably, yeah. That stands to reason.
That's the thing, right? If he had it, he would have cast it by now. So now what he's going to continue to do is he's going to basically Retraction Helix's drum. He'll add a mana with the drum with the Laguna Bond Trailblazer, and then Retraction Helix the drum.
Yep.
And then with the mana floating from using the drum, he recasts the drum. And he just does this a bunch. It makes his creatures bigger, and he just continues to do this over and over and over and over again. So he's demonstrating a loop here, which allows him to get through his deck, and conveniently, he has a mana available, and as you mentioned, God's Willing.
Right, so he can get, once one of his creatures gets to be 1,000, he can give it pro green and attack for lethal.
And of course, the drawing of a card is a you may, so he doesn't deck himself, and he gets the job done yet again. Ivan Gen wins game number 1 here over Brendon Freeman. Jeskai Heroic combo up a game over Green-Black Constellation.
You can see the look on Brendon's face there because his draw was Acceleration into Eidolon into Doomwake Giant. with other stuff left over, and it still was not enough.
It does tell the story.
I think that if at some point he found a murderous cut, I think that would have been enough of pressure and disruption to keep it off Ivan off the combo. But that still excellent draw there from Brendon was not enough to get it done.
Trivia time before going back to this insane deck. 6-month giveaway. Patrick's got your question. The rules are simple. Twitter, hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live. We'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round. And of course, all contests and giveaways here on SCG Live are the sole discretion of Star City Games. No contests or giveaways are affiliated with Twitch.tv, though we do thank them for allowing us to broadcast on their fantastic network.
So, Star City Games, as you all know, for those of you who frequent the website, which you all should, that we do versus videos that are incredibly popular. We did one in Orlando, in fact, the evening before the Grand Prix, to go through some seal deck practice. We're going to be doing the same thing in New Jersey, doing some legacy practice. Can you name the 2 people who will be there battling Friday evening?
I think they can. And you get extra credit.
Extra credit.
We can't forget about extra credit if you use their Twitter handles.
Yeah, extra lottery tickets go into the, into the basket out of which we pull your name if you use their Twitter handles in your answer.
So the 2 people who will be playing in the versus video, hashtag the answer with the hashtag of SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and the winner will be announced at the conclusion of our semifinal round. Back to the match we go. Take a look at the sideboards here. We will see for Brendon Freeman a sideboard that's very similar to what we saw in the last match. You've got 4 copies of Over Colossus, a Doomwake Giant, 2 Bio Blights, a Farika God of Affliction, 3 Nissa World Waker, 4 Thoughtseize. More tools here for Freeman, though.
This is very close to the sideboard that we saw Ivan go through last round, with Bio Blights replacing Hero's Downfall. So I think we're going to see the same sideboarding. I think Brendon wants to cap out on Doomwake Giants. I think he wants to bring in the 4 copies of Thoughtseize and the 2 Bio Blights as well.
Other side of things, we've seen Ivan's sideboard a handful of times here. I don't expect to see a lot of changes, but again, 3 erases are probably going to come in.
The erases were awesome in his top 8 match. Exiling Doomwake Giant, it's a cheap, efficient answer that means the threats also can't be brought back by Whip of Erebos. So I think you're going to see the erases come in. Another
impressive win.
Yep.
What more can be said that we haven't said already?
Misses some land drops. Looked like he was getting rocked. Brendon with a million blockers in play. Still was not enough.
Well,
still was not enough.
Our backup match, if we do have time to go over there, is an Abzan mid-range mirror between Justin Porteous and Alex Lien. When we do have an update for you guys exactly on how that's going, we will, of course, let you know who's better at casting Siege Renault. Well, we know who's really good at casting Jeskai Ascendancy right now.
Yes. He's got to be thrilled with the way this bracket broke, too.
Yeah, no kidding.
I would imagine of the stock lists in Standard, the one that Ivan would want to play against the least would probably be Jeskai aggro, or maybe Boss Sly.
Yeah.
Boss Sly seems,
I don't know, he beat VD playing Jeskai aggro.
It's true. But a really fast clock with some Magma Sprays in the sideboard is probably challenging for Ivan's deck.
Probably, yeah. Once you identify what you need to kill, and you kind of, I honestly feel a real way that he's getting his edge in this tournament, even though he's kind of picking up this deck for the first time, but you can tell he understands how it works very well.
Yeah.
Is the fact that the opponents just don't have any clue how to play against it. I imagine, we're starting to see people figure out the fact that you're supposed to kill a Crew and Crusader, but I don't even think that's right 100% of the time because we're seeing him win games where he doesn't even need the card.
And if you go back to Brendon's previous turn there, part of the reason that Ivan was able to win as easily as he did once he drew the Springland Drum was that Brendon only had green blockers on defense. Is Brendon not supposed to attack with Doomwake Giant the previous turn, so he has a green blocker and a black blocker back? I don't know, but it's at least a consideration the way that game played out.
Well, the way that, and I think that, that's a consideration, but the way the game plays out, I don't think it ends up mattering because he has a Battlefield Fortune play. He hasn't played a land yet for the turn, so he's able to draw through his entire deck, find 2 copies of God's Willing and another land, and then just God Willing Screen, God Willing Black and kill you.
Assuming he has enough cards total in his hand to do all this. Because, we've seen Jeskai combo decks where they're able to cast something like Treasure Cruise, so they have enough expendable cards that they can loot to the combination that they need to go off. Ivan is not playing anything like that, so cards in hand can be a bottleneck for him.
Yeah. There's probably, some roundabout way, we haven't played the deck before, but with the fact that Dragon's Mantle cantrips, and the fact that Defiant Strike cantrips, but he's working with a finite number of mana too. It's not like the Sylvan Caryatid versions where you're generating a boatload of mana. So I imagine there's a way to get that done. But either way, it's incredible to watch.
Yes. That's the takeaway of all of this is, man, is this deck sweet. If this becomes Standard's best deck, I think it's trouble. But for one tournament, assuming people can adapt to it, let this guy go nuts.
Well, for right now, in the current world we live in, this feels like Standard's best deck to me. For this tournament, right now.
If you could go back in time and register any 75, it would be this for this tournament. There's no question in my mind. I mean, just look at Brendon's face at the end of game one there. Just the eyes wide open, just, I don't know, what else am I supposed to do? I was on the play. I brought one of my best draws to the table. It looked like you had nothing going, and I still got killed.
I've had that. It's great because you don't have that feeling a lot in Magic, but when you know it when you have it.
Yes.
I remember the first time Dredge was a deck at Grand Prix Charlotte. Mike Crum won that Grand Prix, and a lot of people didn't know that was going on that weekend. You know, the first time you see it happen where it's like, yeah, I will play a Future Imp and discard a Golgari Grave Troll. Next turn, I will Dredge and cast Tolarian Winds. And you're not alive anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that one thing where you're just blown away. You're like, wow, whatever I'm doing is incorrect.
Yeah, you got, you know, like an Android brush hopper in your hand or something.
Yeah. It's like, I came to the party with Spirit Monger.
Right.
What am I doing here?
You understand that when you have Pernicious Deed and Spirit Monger in play, you can regenerate it and kill all their subs.
I do. That's a combo.
All right, that's cool. You died 3 turns ago.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing that happens where it's just like, wow, I can't believe this happened to me. It looks like Freeman's going to take a mulligan. I remember it too, testing for the first Modern Pro Tour in Philadelphia in 2001 that Estradi won. When I was testing online, and you know, I started off with my sweet Cloud Post. My opponent played an Inkmoth Nexus, and I'm like, that's pretty cute. Inkmoth Nexus. This guy's probably working with like some
maybe he's
spells.
Playing Affinity, maybe he's playing Infect.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
It's up to a little something over here, and I play a Green Sun Zenith the next turn, get a Dryad Arbor. I'm really,
Busting.
I am cooking.
So much mana acceleration.
Yeah, I am cooking. I've got a Primeval Titan lined up. My opponent plays a land, activates his Nexus, plays Blazing Shoal, removes Progenitus. I'm not alive anymore. And I dropped from the match.
Yeah, just
I didn't concede the game. I conceded the match and said, I need to reevaluate some things right now.
Right.
Because what my deck's doing isn't good enough.
Because this person's playing right now. This person's probably got friends behind them laughing at me.
Yeah.
I'd rather just do something else with my time rather than play this out.
Oh, this guy's got a Cloud Post. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, look at him.
Oh, he thinks this game's going to be like 5 turns long or something. That's endearing. That's really endearing.
That's the only times I've had that feeling. And I think right now, if I was one of Ivan Jen's opponents coming into this weekend, I would have that same feeling of like, what the heck am I doing here?
Yep.
I have Siege Rhino in my deck.
Yep.
What on earth?
Oh, Pearl Lake Ancient. That's sweet. It's so big, I can't counter it.
You better hope I don't get to 7 mana.
Yeah, you better cross your fingers, buddy, and hope that I do not get to 7 mana. So I will cast that thing and chump block one of your Crusader tokens.
See what Freeman can draw up here for his 6 cards. Very quickly took a mulligan, but I think this is a matchup where he needs to mulligan aggressively.
Yeah.
Any old hand ain't gonna do.
Game 1 is a demonstration of that. I mean, you saw he had a solid hand, didn't get it done.
Elvish Mystic off of Forest here. Got a Temple of Enlightenment to start here for Jen.
Quickly put it on top.
A Windswept Heath. We'll search up a forest. I'm coming around to that forest artwork, by the way.
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite forest artwork that I can think of. When I was a kid, it was my favorite forest artwork, and nothing's really ever passed it.
It's kind of bringing me back because that kid, too.
It was the first land that I ever wanted to get matching artwork of.
Okay.
It was the first one.
Here's a Courtier of Grufix. Top card. Windswept Heath. Pass the turn back. Jen will untap that Temple of Enlightenment. It's time to draw a card. Did get a great look. He's got a spell to play. Springleaf Trump, a scary one. A Mystic Monastery before passing the turn back.
And Ivan, it does appear, has an ascendancy in hand. Whether he has land number 3 yet remains to be seen.
Courser, Red Zone. See the top card right now is Nylon Blossoms. Jen gonna go down to 18. Another Courser here. Windswept Heath there. Double trigger up to 21. And passing of the turn. I think here for Brendon, the problem might be no black mana, potentially.
Yep.
I'm gonna play a copy of Favorite Hoplite. Looks like he's gonna take one.
Boy.
Ah, yes. Jeskai Ascendancy.
Oh, Courser of Crewfix. Get to generate some card advantage.
Hey,
the game goes on for a long
They're
time.
both 3-mana enchantments, Patrick. I don't see a problem here.
Yeah. Look at that squad on the artwork. They are up to no good.
Yeah, Space Jam.
Space Jam. It's the Space Jam aliens.
Swamp going to come into play from Courser, so black mana has been found. Maybe a turn too late. We'll see. Yeah, I'd be a little wary too.
Asking for how many cards in your hands?
Yeah, 4.
Am I dead?
Probably.
Am I dead on turn 4?
There's an attack. Put you down to 13. Time to sacrifice the Heath. Doesn't like the top card. Does have an Eidolon of Blossoms in his hand, so probably doesn't want to draw the Courser. Wants to maybe try to find a Thoughtseize.
Just anything at all that matters?
There's Force. Trigger, of course, the Courser.
He's got to find disruption here. Or at least a black blocker. Just something to diversify a little bit, because right now he's offering no resistance. And he's not attacking very quickly either.
Top card, Forest. Eidolon, trigger. Draw the Forest, top card. Bile Blight. Freeman in his hand does have a copy of Doomwake Giant, but it only takes a singular black mana, so he's okay.
And keep in mind right now, Brendon here with...
Oh, no.
Oh, boy. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Did not have 4 cards in his graveyard for
goodness.
Murderous Cut, so that's a turn 4.
Oh, my God.
My goodness.
Just shows him the Retraction Helix and another creature and says, you're not alive anymore.
You're done.
Ivan Jen.
You played your heart out there, Brendon, but not a lot to be done.